I didn't really know what we were going to get this week, but it's Game of Thrones ish. These scenes I always tend to like fast forward through, but and I did that the first time I watched episode 4 on Sunday. But then I realized maybe I missed something because I actually did not know if Rhaenyra was lying. I was just like Allison, like, girl, did you do your uncle? Like I said, even though I was there, I was like, wait, did this happen? That's how good she was lying.
This episode opens with Rhaenyra trying to find a suitor. It looks like maybe she's finally want to do what her dad is telling her to do. I don't know. Maybe he did put the fear of God in her because the way Viserys, girl, I thought he was going to yoke her ass up, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like this line of men, mostly older men.
I looked at the line of people waiting for their chance to speak, and I'm telling you, the vast majority of them looked like they were over 50. And the show had opened with like the elder of elders. Like he was old enough to know Rhaenyra's great grandmother, I think it was. And he's telling this very boring story about, just kind of speaks to his age. And I'm not ageist. I'm just saying this girl is, well, she was 17 at the end of episode 3. And then somewhere in this current episode, Viserys did say that it's been a couple of years. So she might be like early 20s now.
But the scene really draws you in with the youngest person there. He's spitting game. He's shooting his shot at Rhaenyra, and then some older but still younger guy. He just kind of throws salt on the little boy's game. The little boy won't having it, pulls out his sword. The camera cuts away, and everybody looks at Rhaenyra's face, and then there's a collective gasp, and the camera pans back, and I'm instantly, this is TV. I already know. The little boy is the winner, right? He's the victor. And of course he was. Eventually, we end up in the infamous throne room. There's people lined up on both sides. You've got Viserys standing up at the last step, and Daemon's approaching him. And just when he gets close, me and the guards apparently were on the same page because I was just like, nah, something ain't right. But the guards kind of collapse in just before Daemon can get through, and Daemon was like, all right, chill, chill. So he takes out a sword and he tosses it at Viserys, which I thought was a bit disrespectful. You just kind of stick it out, let somebody grab it. But
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, here, add it to the throne. Of course, that's where the other couple thousand have already come from, right? Wars, people they've conquered, and wars they've won. Damon does kneel while he's doing this. And then eventually you see Hightower, just like me, waiting on the other shoe to drop. And girl, did you peep how he slithered his sneaky ass to the back of the room, like going near the door? It was
Yeah.
funny to me.
Hightower basically has been watching Daemon very, very closely.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that he knows that Daemon can't be trusted no matter how submissive he is in the moment. But I also like the take that I was getting about Otto is that I think in his mind, everything is looked at as a threat to his grandson being king or crowned king. And I feel like he was looking at what was transpiring, and if Daemon and Viserys cool the tension and their brotherly relationship, because I think that Otto needs that relationship to be high tension. And there was a little scene where even Daemon cuts his eye over at Hightower and it makes some eye contact really quickly. And it's just, you
I
just
caught
can't.
that too. I caught that too.
Yeah.
He's like, Damon, bro, you here for a whole nother reason. Why are you watching Hightower? Next scene, there's Rhaenyra and Damon, and they meet. They're in the garden area where the infamous tree is, where Arya kills the Night King, the redwood tree, I believe they call it. But yeah, so they meet there and they're talking. Damon makes it a point to let her know that she's matured, and little did I know that was foreshadowing something. But eventually they get into talking about Rhaenyra taking a suitor, what's taking her so long. And Damon, he just goes, listen, marriage is a political arrangement for men. And without skipping a beat, Rhaenyra's like, yeah, but it's a death sentence for women. Duty, tradition, you have to do it for honor, so on and so forth. And they do it to their own detriment. We see her mom. If you look at an actual House of Game Game of Thrones, look at the actual Game of Thrones family tree, one that's very detailed. you'll see all the women who died just in childbirth alone. I appreciate that they keep reinforcing that point.
I do too. And I think that it also speaks to why, like Emma Rhaenyra's mom, and probably all of the four mothers in this time frame, they always talk about their womb being the greatest honor and duty, the same way men talk about, their service to their country through war. Like women were dying the way men die in war, like, fighting in war. These women are dying to bring specifically male heirs into this world. And so it's like a battlefield for women when there's no health care. And then, you think about the parallels of today, where I'm hoping that something like House of the Dragon can shed some light, because obviously our eyes are open, but I'm hoping more people can actually see the consequences of not letting women have any control or any say so over their reproductive rights and choices. Because, I mean, if you remember, Emma died because they were trying a C-section for the very first time, and it was a traumatic thing. Just today, hey, we read and we heard, or I don't know what it was, but it wasn't something that they practiced. She was quite literally the guinea pig. And it's patriarchy is sick. There's a reason why we say fuck the patriarchy. But I won't belabor the topic. You can go. Oh, actually, before we move on, the scene in a courtyard, I think, also highlights a little bit of that, because, Rhaenyra is happy to see her uncle return home. She sees her dad and her uncle kikiing in the courtyard, reminiscing about, their younger days. And she tries to jump in and be a part of the conversation. Her dad just side eyes her and gaslights her, and makes her feel like shit, because he's still upset that she didn't do her duties. She didn't find a suitable heir when he gave her relatively full reign to do so. And so I look at Rhaenyra and what she's feeling, and then Allison also being disregarded in the conversation, and the two of them are just like pitiful sitting in the chair looking and thinking about their positions as women. So that was just an incredible scene to dissect, I think, even for today's issues.
So the council meeting is the next scene. And one of the things I gathered, obviously, one of the bigger points they wanted to get through to us was that Corlys Velaryon may try to get revenge on Viserys for not marrying Laena. The council member was trying to tell Viserys that Corlys plans to wed his daughter Laena to, and I didn't catch the name. Did you catch who he mentioned?
Yeah, is Bravos, Sea Lord of Bravos. He's got a son. He's a king or ruler of one of the free cities. And that's just like a big deal to have your only and largest, most powerful navy, the king of that house or city, marry off his only daughter to, someone else, even though he gave the opportunity to Viserys, but she was like 9. So now all he has left is a son. And so, yeah, like you were saying, it's a whole political thing. Like, what are we going to do? Because we can't have our most prized asset and a strong navy force like start forming alliances with people who aren't even within the kingdom. They're free cities.
We advance in the show and we're in Rhaenyra's bedroom. She empties a bag of stuff on her bed and then she finds this rolled up piece of paper, which happened to be like a map of sorts of a secret passageway built into her bedroom walls, which leads to like underground tunnels. So she changes her clothes, she follows the directions that's mapped out on that paper, and eventually it leads her to Daemon. And they kind of walk the streets as commoners.
Yeah, and I thought that was interesting, just seeing Damon and Rhaenyra looking like they're fresh off of Kanye's, his little poverty.
Runway.
Yeah, his little fashion. And I was just like, what in the world? Why they look like they just off the runway? But anyway, it was interesting that I don't know, like a part of me was like, yeah, get her out in the town, cheer her up. But I just don't trust Damon. The vibe is always since episode 1 when he was putting that necklace on her, which I don't remember what it symbolized, but like, there's just always creep vibes.
So they're walking through the streets, I guess enjoying peasant life, and they run up on a play, and they catch a few scenes from the play. And ironically enough, the storyline of the play was literally about King's making his decision and choosing a female heir, and that being the wrong decision and the dumb one. And he needs to choose the male. Rhaenyra hears it. She's not really swayed by it. She even bucks back a bit. And it's kind of like I caught Daemon when they said it. He looked at her for her reaction. It's almost as if he was saying like everybody thinks your dad made the wrong decision. I don't want to make it sound mean because it's obviously he does love her.
Yeah, so for me, I did peep when he looked at her and I was wondering. I mean, there is what you were saying, like, see, they don't like you. Me not ever trusting Daemon, I feel like he was looking at her like yes, I'm destroying her confidence. Because if you think about just like in like real history, medieval times, they would do the same play like every night. So I would not be surprised if Daemon actually seen that play before, because clearly this isn't his first time roaming the streets the way he does with the common people. I imagine he probably seen this play before and purposely brought her to it. Maybe he was enlightening her. I don't think that's not possible, but I always think Daemon is sneaky. And I just feel like the whole night was part of a grand plan, a scheme to just one step closer to being on the throne. And she's a contender. I don't doubt that he loves her as his niece. At the same time, she is a viable contender for the throne. So
Was those men playing women's roles? It's like I didn't want to jump to the conclusion, but I'm like, I could have sworn they were all men.
they were, yeah, all of the actors were men, which we can appreciate the House of Thrones, girl, the House of the Dragon, just the whole Game of Thrones, being true to history, medieval times, Shakespeare times, women were not allowed to act. So even female roles were played by men. And it's not even just like in Europe. I learned that even in some like Native Alaskan cultures and some Asian cultures, I don't know if they were like not allowed to act because of patriarchy and sexism, but I know in Europe it was patriarchy and sexism. They weren't allowed to act. So you saw correctly. The actor for Rhaenyra had a whole beard.
Knew I wasn't tripping. So back in the king's chambers, Viserys requests Alicent's presence late in the night. Now, I noticed I'm gonna call her handmaiden because I don't know. I honestly don't know the name for these girls, but handmaiden probably wouldn't. Well, no, that wouldn't be accurate. But her helper, her servant, I'm not sure. But Alicent's servant came into the room, letting know Viserys wants to see her. They don't sleep in the same. They don't share the
No.
same.
Again, true to history,
Well,
kings and queens slept in different rooms, different beds, which is where we get the name king size bed, queen size bed.
whoa.
Yeah, a little history for you. So yeah, and actually I think handmaiden might be correct because it totally gives handmaiden vibes, Handmaiden's Tale. They were all dressed like that as well. And
Girl, they in red for real. They are in
right.
red, white. Girl, stop.
Yep.
But then again, I guess that makes sense because half the time they didn't choose their spouse anyways. So Alicent, true to form, all about her duty. She's in there getting slathered in whatever he got. What is that?
All them scabs. I
Gray
was like, this
Greystone. I almost suspected it might be
scene.
grayscale. No, I'm talking Greystone. I almost suspect it might be grayscale.
Girl, he probably got the Black Plague. I don't know what
Whatever
that
it is.
man has, but that was not a sexy scene to see him going
Mm-mm.
at it with all them scales on his back, scabs on his
Mm-hmm.
back. No, thank you.
At all. And she's just like, duty is what's on her face. She's not enjoying this. She ain't even faking it. And then at some point, I see him turn his head towards her, but they don't lean into that moment. But I almost felt like he turned his head to her as if to kind of say, oh, you're
Was
not
it good
into
to
it.
you?
Right. Type situation, exactly. But it was real quick. So I might be reading into that. But no. I just thought that was, and maybe that's why Rhaenyra, even though she said it prior to, but maybe that's along the lines of what Rhaenyra mean, not in a literal sense when she said marriage is a death sentence for women. Because I mean, whatever he got, surely you're gonna pass that shit on to Allison. Like, no, seriously, like that's not. We cut back to the streets. Daemon and Rhaenyra acting like common thugs in the street. So they're at the pleasure house. Everybody's doing everything, licking this, touching these parts, everything. Eventually, Rhaenyra and Daemon get caught up in the vibe together. I gotta laugh because maybe I threw up I don't know what they call it in the psychology world, how you throw up a mental block so you don't think you saw what you saw. Because I honestly thought they only shared a passionate kiss or some
Yeah.
fondling. Maybe I thought maybe he had some his hands in some places in her naughty bits, and I thought it was maybe fondling her. You think they did?
No.
I have to watch
So
this
I'm
again.
yeah,
No, I
well, if
don't,
you,
but I have to.
I was gonna say you don't have to. I'll tell you because the first time I watched this episode twice because the first time that I watched it, I skipped over that, just like in Game of Thrones. So I really didn't want to watch, but as the episode went on, I realized that I actually was just as clueless as Allison. Like I did not know if something actually went down. Are they like lying on Rhaenyra or did something happen? So I went back and watched the whole thing, and then that episode I forced myself to watch. And girl, there was a scene where he turns her to face the wall and he's hitting it from the back. It doesn't last very long, which again kind of goes back to me wondering if this man has an like erectile dysfunction, which I'm not making fun of. I know that's a thing for men. But if you remember, Quandra, like episode 1 or 2, there was a scene also in the bowels of the brothel, as Hightower calls it, where Daemon he's at the brothel, he's going to town with his side
That's right.
chick, and like he's just not into it. And I originally thought like maybe his mind is just somewhere else, but with this ancestral scene with Rhaenyra, like he gets frustrated at some point and just like slams his fist against the wall and walks away and leaves her like naked and confused. And I don't know if he had a moment, which it's hard to think that this man has a conscience, but I don't know if he had a moment where he's like, this is wrong, and that's why he stopped. Or again, he just has penis problems.
Got it. Got it. My mind was just like, nah, that's not what's happening. He's just maybe fondling her. But yeah, woo, sweet summer child.
Did you peep when Rhaenyra does leave the brothel looking for Daemon because he just storms off? And I peeped that she lied to Allison about it. She told Allison that he got drunk and had sex with another. He called it a whore. I don't want to use
She
that word.
shot her a quick lie and a good one. A good one. I was,
Yeah.
he stole me.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I was believing her, and I was like, now I got to go back and watch the scene because maybe they lying on old girl. But anyway, she tells Allison that that they were there, but he leaves her to go drink some more and then have sex with other women at the brothel. When what really happened is, he stormed off and left her hanging dry, and she's looking for him. She leaves the brothel, and mind you, do you remember how they got the white hair all exposed? I was like, what was the point of even dressing in
Correct.
Kanye's fashion, poverty fashion, if you're just gonna,
Correct.
to show your full identity at the most
Yep.
like
You know what? You might be onto something. I mean, might have all this might be
yeah, I'm telling you, he probably
strategic
did
for
all of
him.
this on purpose. He probably wanted her to see that. He wanted to bring her to the
Mm.
brothel. He probably also
Okay.
wanted to have sex, but something went down in his pants. And where I was trying to go though is, so she leaves. Did you catch the little boy sitting at the steps?
I
He
did.
sees.
Rhaenyra gets back to her room, and I guess to your point, Damon got her hot and bothered, as my grandmother would say. That's
Exactly.
so funny to me. So she just kind of pushed up on Christian Cole, and he got lucky. I know he was like, because he obviously he likes her, man. And they get busy, and I did not see that coming. But now that I think about it, Rhaenyra ain't dumb. Because
No.
because remember I told you, I'm thinking, I didn't think they had sex or any. Well, no, you said he couldn't finish. Because see, I
Yeah.
had my own little conspiracy theory where I was gonna say, well, maybe
She's trying to get
well, see,
pregnant by
I'm really
someone else.
someone else, yeah. So, but girl, that was wild to me.
First of all, I know in our previous episode, I talked about how I wanted them two to hook up anyway. I just think they're cute together.
Yes,
I didn't want them to hook up under these circumstances, and I didn't think it would happen so soon. But like, I just think they're so cute together. However, I feel like she jeopardized him because, he's not supposed to be touching on her and
right.
having sex with her. And if she does get, have his baby, although I don't think, obviously that's not going to happen. But anyway, it was an interesting scene. Did you peep how this, like, it looked like someone was watching them
I thought
behind?
so.
I was like, I don't know if this is just camera angles or did Daemon sneak back through and he's
Mhm.
watching her have sex because he's weird like that. I don't know. I shouldn't bring that up, but the camera
I
angles were
had the
really
same.
suspect. But yeah, so the reason why I pointed out the little boy is because obviously he shows up again and he's the little snitch who delivers the news to Hightower. And Hightower, being the snitch that he is, expeditiously reports on this news to Viserys. But what I loved about Viserys is that he didn't immediately just be like, because patriarchy, the woman's always guilty, right? He pushes back on that information and demands that Hightower deliver the rumor monger or whatever he says. He wants to see this person, and Hightower's like, I can't share my sources with you. That scene I appreciated because it was really good to see a man at least even though unfortunately his daughter is guilty. At least he's like pushing back on the news. Of course, we see Allison in the background, just like, what the hell going to
Snooping.
do? Yeah, yeah. And so I think that for me, also just thinking about the little boy, I want to see what your thoughts are because the scene goes on to Daemon sleeping in the medieval equivalent of a hotel. And I think her name is Masseria. That's what I'm going to call her. I'm not going to call her what he calls her because, I have respect for sex workers. And even though she's retired from the industry, she talks about having saved him. And he doesn't understand what because he's not high, but he's hungover. And she throws in a little remark about saving his ass. And I think around that same scene is when the little boy gives her
That was
money.
him. That was the same kid.
That was the same kid, and he puts money in her hand, which
I
in
thought
my
so.
mind, that is the money he got from Otto, which obviously opens all of my curiosities about us thinking it's the boy, but maybe this whole time Miss Syria is actually his source, which puts into question, Daemon might think that he chose her. What if she was planted in his life to be a spy by Hightower? The next scene is when King Viserys uh basically approaches, that's probably a softer way of saying what really happened, but he confronts Daemon about the news. And did you peep? I feel like Viserys was looking very kingly in that scene. He was in all black, his hair was freshly shampooed, his crown looked like Daemon's just a drunk on the throne floor. He was looking very kingly in that scene. Go back and peep his outfit. So yeah, he's conflicted though because Allison is saying, "Hey, I talked to Rhaenyra and she said nothing went down." And yet he's talking to his brother and his brother's essentially not denying it. And weirdly, I didn't expect him to ask to marry Rhaenyra. Were you surprised by that or did you see that coming?
Heck no, I did not see that coming. He had a knife to his throat at that point. Like, what? Why would you say that? That's why I didn't see that coming. Like, of all the things you're gonna say in that time, no, I didn't see it coming. No.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell? But then I was like, he's always plotting. Maybe he always wanted to like marry her and have a baby that would secure, the throne, at least staying within the family, but mostly staying. It would secure him because he would.
And yeah, that's true. That's true. He would end up being king either way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what would
Well,
happen to the
no,
little
no. I
Aegon,
completely
right?
forgot about child. I completely forgot
Me
about
too. That little baby. We done forgot about that little
correct. I
baby.
completely forgot about him.
But
But
no, I
no,
feel like that would be two people competing with this little baby. Two people who are battle worthy and together would probably, with their histories, the people would have more confidence in their abilities to protect the realm, and they don't know nothing about this toddler who they still have to wait to grow up. I mean, I could see the plan, him thinking that all the way through, the way he'd been looking at Rhaenyra. But I guess I just want to fast forward to the end girl because that was interesting.
you mean when the high scepter walked in and tells her, "Here's your tea," and says essentially, "There's your plan B in it. Your plan B is in this tea." And Rhaenyra looks at him.
Exactly. The first thing that came to mind was, and it's probably because it came up during conversations online about abortion. I immediately thought about how in Bible days the priests used to scrape up the crumbs and crusts from the temple floor and feed it to a woman, and then if she didn't die or didn't have a miscarriage, yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, this ain't no just tea. But I just was thinking about the ingredients, because if they can barely do a C-section, this ain't like.
That's true. So it's on par for them to scrape up dirt off the tabernacle floor.
Oh
So that's on
yeah.
par. That's on par.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess we'll close out by saying my favorite thing happened, which is Hightower got fired. I don't know what will happen because of that, but he got fired. Rhaenyra's got plan B, and we'll have to tune in next Sunday to see what happens.
We'll see y'all next week.